Hi everyone, so I thought we'd have a quick look at the North-South divide. This is a section of paper 2. It's not a big one, but it is one that is worth noting. First of all, can I please just explain that this is supposed to look like the UK. It's not obviously a map, but it's just to give you an impression of the north and then the south. And what we're going to do is we're going to annotate our two sort of cities. So Hull is a typical example of a city in the north. And if we just draw a line off. So if we look at, first of all, disposable income. Now this is money that you don't spend on, for example, your rent or your mortgage payments. This is money that you have that is extra from your absolute basic needs for food, water and shelter. Now, disposable income in the northeast of England is approximately, I'll just put this down, £12,543 per person, and that does sound like quite a lot of money. Probably right now to you that sounds like quite a lot of money. But we are going to remember, have a look at the two differences. So if we do the same for London, draw an arrow off London and write disposable income. And we're looking not specifically at London, we're looking at sort of southeast England. So Kent, Norwich, areas like that. Remember, these are people living in the same country, and the average disposable income in the southeast is £16,792 per person on average. So you can see immediately it's nearly £4,000 more, and that's every year just because they're living in a slightly different place. Now let's look at another slightly more shocking fact. Let's look at life expectancy. So life expectancy is how long you're expected to live for. In the north of England, that number is 78 years. That's the average death rate, if you like. Whereas in London, life expectancy is much higher, or rather not London, sorry. Life expectancy in the southeast is 92 years. So that gives you an idea about the type and quality of lifestyle choices and hospitals and sort of services that are accessible. So lots and lots of factors play into that. Now again, another easy thing to measure, and this is our divide around here, sorry. Another easy thing to measure is the percentage of unemployed households. So this is where the entire family in a household are not in any kind of formal employment. Right, so I'm just going to draw a house, so you remember you're looking at a house. Now, in the northeast of England, that is 25% of all households. So 1 in 4 homes has got the entire family unemployed. Whereas if we look, same statistic, and we look at the percentage of unemployed households in the south of England, southeast, that number's quite a bit higher because it's only 10%. Okay, so you can tell the unemployment rate is much, much higher. And that's often because there are just less jobs. There are less opportunities for people to work, and there are more opportunities in the south. So let's have a think about why we've got these big divides, why we've got these big differences. Well, the first reason is the power of London. Not forgetting it's obviously our capital city. It has a huge economic pull. Massive industries, everything actually, primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary, but mostly those sort of quaternary and tertiary industries like finance and research. It also has better infrastructure. Infrastructure is a classic geographical word. I hope if I spelt it right. There we go. Infrastructure. Just things like our roads and railways and just motorways. Basically all of those sort of transport links are better. Much easier to use, more accessible, it encourages trade. We're also, I know it's not a huge difference, but we are closer to Europe, and it makes business meetings and trading and working with other countries like France and Italy and Holland much, much easier. And another big reason is something called de-industrialization. Now, de-industrialization is the term given to us as a nation moving away from factories and mining and moving to a post-industrial economy. Now, this was felt much more in the north of England, where more of the factories were in the first place and therefore were lost when Britain made this move. So there were more unemployment and more people losing their jobs. Now there are thankfully two big strategies to help people in the north. And the first one is these new assisted areas. They're specific areas. And if you look in your copy of the revision guide, you'll be able to see exactly where they are. But basically, the government have pinpointed certain areas that need this assistance. And if you are in one of these assisted areas, you will have access to tax cuts. Now, tax cuts is like free money, because if you're not paying tax, you can keep it. So it can help make a difference between that disposable income we talked about earlier. So it's basically that is a financial incentive. Now, everyone knows about these assisted areas, so it might even attract people to go and live there and to work there and set up businesses there, knowing that they can make a bit more money than if they work in the south. The other thing they're doing is sort of making the planning laws easier. Now, planning is a real headache, especially for businesses. Businesses who want to make land purchases. Now, so what they've done is they've basically made it much more straightforward for businesses to purchase land. And that's all good. It's going to basically raise the number of businesses who want to locate there. And that in turn is going to have a knock-on effect to the number of jobs. That's going to therefore bring down unemployment. So there's some really good schemes around, and they are helping. Unfortunately, I'm going to put a sad face here, even though these have been in place for a little while, there is still too much of an economic pull from London that is essentially prevailing and causing businesses to still want to locate in the south. So if you just put the economic pull, so it's a bit like a pull factor, isn't it, of the south prevails. So basically more needs to be done. Although these assisted areas, are helping. So the second strategy, and this is a bit of a controversial one at the moment, it's in the news a lot. It'll be interesting to see how this all works out with funding. But it's the HS2, and that's the High Speed Railway 2. Okay, so the good thing about the HS2 is that it is going to connect Manchester and London in half the time. And that's a major positive. So if we put that as a positive, it will reduce the time by half. Half time to travel between the capital, London, and Manchester. It will essentially mean that you can go to Manchester, have a meeting, and get back to London in the same day, instead of sitting on a train for maybe 6 hours, 7 hours. It's doable in a day. Now, the HS2 is a huge project to create a massive railway. So that is also, inadvertently, going to create jobs for lots and lots of people in things like construction of the railway and other industries. It's also set to increase trade between the north and south. Particularly for the north, working with the south. And it might be that some southern businesses can use the railway and actually think that it'd be a good idea to have an office located or a factory located in the north and 2 premises, just because of this railway being constructed. It's also, if it does all work out, set to generate, so sort of create £40 billion for the UK economy. And this is all through that increased trade. That's obviously a really, really good thing. On the flip side, the less good, is that it is also, and this is the controversial side of it, expected to cause quite a lot of environmental damage. So remember, the train line is going through old woodland and other types of environment, and even really where people are living. So many people having to move out of their homes because of the railway. So that's obviously social disturbance. Well, I hope that gives you enough to sort of adequately talk about the north-south divide. Remember the reasons for it, and then the strategies. You've got 2 strategies to actually look at reducing the gap, and that should be enough for you to answer quite a lengthy question on that one.